Hello, BSU Relaxes is the product of a design thinking process addressing stress among millennials in Ball State Center for Emerging Media Design and Development. I'll start off with introducing our team. First, we have our producer, Tanner Little, with a background in computer science. We have Ben Beckley, research lead and blogger. He graduated from Ball State with a degree in creative writing.
My name is Ryan Warnowski. I also graduated from Ball State University with a degree in journalism graphics, and I am the usability lead for this project.
And my name is Bree Eikenberry. I am the marketing and audience promotion leader, and I graduated with a degree in journalism graphics. So, first off, I'll introduce our problem space. We looked at millennials in the age range of 18 to 24 and found that stress is pretty high among these groups of people because of their tough life transitions. So our mission for BSU Relaxes is to provide a space in which millennials can take part in activities conducive to relaxation without being directly told how to relax, as a way to alleviate stress during these tough times of transition.
So I'm going to briefly introduce you to the project so you have a sense of scope of the entire process of how we made it here. BSU Relaxes is an evocative space that allows millennials to engage in a relaxation activity without directly telling them how to relax. Promotion in social media was conducted on Facebook pages and then through our website, where we had an educational blog and promotion to our events. The actual physical event involved students creating holiday cards, and this allowed them to come together and share their holiday spirit. After we attracted students to this evocative space, our guides helped carry out the conversation about relaxation and also encouraged students to share their cards back to our website. This served as a hub where we could provide them with extra information about millennial stress and how to properly relax. So to begin this design thinking process, our research lead, Ben Beckley, devised a research plan that the team went out and executed. The plan began with expert research, then followed up with empathy research, and then the team saturated and grouped our findings from these research to develop the problem statement and problem space we described earlier. It's important to note that this is a continuation of a former project that we conducted on campus called BSU Art and Nature. This is a project we created to help Ball State students alleviate stress regardless of social level. And while we succeeded in creating an experience that fostered relaxation, we got too hung up on the idea of pleasing introverts and extroverts. There was also no initiative beyond the project after it was finished. So people would come to this art installation and paint as a form of relaxation, but there'd be no benefit to the user after the experience ended. We also looked at similar cases of relaxation on campus. This included the counseling center. We looked at the counseling center specifically because our research identified that sedentary relaxing can have somewhat negative side effects, and we looked at how students relaxed in this sedentary environment. It's important to note that throughout the research, there are many key findings that are found, and as we continue the research process, we whittle those key findings down to what will be our final project key findings, and we make it to the final project key findings. I will make that clear in the presentation. So research began in phase 1 of expert research, where Ben divided up the team into 2 groups. Ben and Bree looked at stress among college students, and there was one general finding from this research that college students experience stress in times of transitions. So we found that regardless of their time in college, that students still deal with problems related to finding a potential life partner, finding a job, moving off campus. And we also found that stress not handled well in students can lead to increased feelings of loneliness, nervousness, and in some minor cases, insomnia. The other half of our team looked at how to combat stress with relaxation methods. And the general finding from this is that to combat stress, millennials rely on sedentary activities. The American Psychological Association found that millennials are more likely to engage than older generations in these sedentary activities, while also performing more negative behaviors such as drinking or smoking. After the teams were in their divergent research after they finished that section of their research, we came together in a convergent process called a saturating group. And this helped us identify what the key findings were, the total key findings, or the key findings that we wanted to focus on for this project. So what we were able to do, identify contributing factors, which included poor health habits like crisis, and then coping techniques, which looked at exercise versus sedentary. So this also helped us identify a plan for how we wanted to conduct our ethnographic research. In addition to doing the saturating group, we sent out an initial survey to Ball State students, and the purpose of this survey was to evaluate if the expert key findings we found were still relevant on Ball State's campus. And so we asked students about their stress and relaxation trends, and we found that the interviews yielded 49 participants, and of the 49, 37 of them, or 76%, said that they identified themselves as being very stressed. And of those, 55% reported that stress directly related to a transitional period in their lives. So this does match the expert research that we found. Phase 2 entered us into empathy research, and this empathy research was guided by our expert research. So we completed empathy research that consisted of over 80 participants to further understand millennials and their perceptions of stress. One of the findings is that participants in events, clubs, have strong emotional connections with other particular topics or interests. So at a craft show, a Ball State student said, "This is my hobby." And in a Zumba class, the Zumba instructor said, the purpose is not to get the moves right, but to be able to dance perfectly. It's to enjoy being active in a creative community in which people can enjoy spending time with other people being active. So the act of doing the exercising wasn't the thing that brought people together, it was that community aspect. This is a picture of the craft show we went to, and we found that participants in events, clubs, or organizations really kind of center around clusters or came in 2 or more people. So most people did not go to an event by themselves, but rather with 2 to 3 people. So after we completed this ethnographic research, we came together and did another saturating group. And what this helped us do is identify 2 main themes: design, which was broken into the introduction, design requirements and emotion, and experience traits, which was divided into levels of engagement, community, and social. So now we are going to introduce the final key findings that we are addressing in this project. The first key finding is that transitional periods prove stressful to people experiencing them. I've always had my own room. Sharing with a stranger is weird for me. I like my own space. And this was said by a Ball State freshman in one of our interviews. So clearly here, that transition and going to college and having to share a dorm room with a person proved to be an extra added source of stress. Our next key finding is that in order to create a relaxing environment, expectations of the event must be clearly defined for users prior to the event. This was identified in a quote where a user said, "I'm one of those people, I don't like surprises, so I'm trying to relax." And this was said by a Ball State senior. Our next key finding is that when relaxing, people require different levels of engagement. So one of the observations we did in our ethnographic research was going to the Pokemon Trainers Union Challenge. And here you can see in this picture that while some users are playing Pokemon on their 3DSs with others, other students are just around watching, and they're just there to celebrate Pokemon and talk about Pokemon because that's one of their interests. Our final 2 key findings are that new experiences are more relaxing when introduced via a conduit. This conduit can be either a person or an idea. So in this instance, a Ball State student said, "I really like my orientation leader. She made it seem so chill, and we all kind of just threw the ball around and casually talked about whatever." So in this instance, the orientation leader served as that conduit for the student to meet other students. Our final key finding is that social relaxation can be better administered in small groups or clustered. And we found this at the Ball State tabletop gaming event. And a student said, when all 6 of us were playing, it got so boring. We all had to wait for 3 minutes for a turn. It was so much quicker and engaging with just the 3 of us.
Now that we've shared our research process, we're going to walk you through how we arrived at our final transmedia experience, BSU Relaxes. First, we started off with how might we statements. Then we took those how might we statements to influence storyboards for potential ideas. And after that, we voted. So our How Might We statements were created as a way to serve inspiration to our storyboards. Each member wrote down ideas on Post-it notes over a 5-minute period of time, and then we took those to influence the storyboards. Each group member was tasked with designing 5 to 10 storyboards that provided the user with the narrative of the experience. In addition, each member was tasked with writing the key finding on each storyboard that it addressed. Keeping in mind the constraints, we narrowed our 25 storyboards down to 6 through elimination and voting. Some of the constraints were that we needed to avoid sedentary activities, gender-specific, and solitary activities. We need to focus on the millennial age group, interact with 100 or more students or people, and we also realized that we can't remove all of the stressors that contribute to millennial stress, and that people don't like being told what to do. So once we had the 25 storyboards, we narrowed the 25 down to 6, and then the 6 down to 4, in which we transferred into a low-mid fidelity prototype packet. So this low fidelity prototyping packet was put in front of 5 users, and they were asked to answer a system usability scale that asked if they would attend this event, if they would go with groups, if they would feel relaxed at these events.
So we did run into some initial issues. When we handed the users the packet, there wasn't a script that was devised to be read to the user, so each of the group members pitched their own kind of version of what would happen in the experience, and this introduced bias into our data results. We also found that users had a difficult time identifying the narrative between the physical and digital aspects of each event. To remedy this, I created a script that would be read to the users that was a narrative of how they went through the entire experience as a whole, and then we conducted another round of usability testing. So now I'd like to reintroduce you to our problem statement, which is that we will provide a space in which millennials can take part in activities conducive to relaxation without being directly told to do so, as to alleviate stress from transitions to adulthood. So what we ended up finding in our testing is that Design a Card, which later became renamed BSU Relaxes, was the most favored idea. It addressed the ideas of different levels of engagement. It also looked at introducing the theme via a conduit, and that being holiday cards, and that the expectations of the event must be clear to users before they arrive to the event, so it was very obvious to users that they were coming to this event to make a holiday card. Some key findings that we thought might have been missed were administering groups in small clusters, but we kind of saw opposite things as the progress resulted, as the project progressed. So the reason we picked Design a Card was based on that system usability scale. And basically we found that Design a Card, as well as another idea called Build a Gingerbread House, saw similar results as they favored as the top 2 in all 8 questions asked to users. In an example here, we asked users the question, I think I would likely participate in both activities, where 5 was strongly agree and 1 was strongly disagree. And you can see here how Design a Card scored a 3.8 versus the overall average, which was a 3.1.
So, the medium fidelity usability test consisted of observations and engagement with participants. We set up a table outside of a local business in downtown Muncie during First Thursday, and we had hoped to gauge a wide audience because of the nature of the First Thursday activities. And this also, it gave us a little bit of experience on how people interacted with BSU Relaxes. From this round of usability testing, we discovered that holding the event outdoors was not beneficial to us. People walked by, they were freezing cold, they did not want to participate. One person even told us it's way relaxing to get frostbite. And also, users felt that the evocative space was not inviting. Some of the decorations were not taken out of their packages, so it wasn't clear to users that they could open them or use them. Also, we did not have enough table space for everyone. So then we did a high fidelity round of testing. We developed our website out a little bit more. We launched our blog posts, and we wanted this to serve as a way to bridge the physical and digital components together. Promotion and social media to the website helped create a conversation about millennial stress and relaxation behaviors. Creating holiday cards allowed students to come together and share their holiday spirit. They were also able to submit their card online for viewing, where they could have, they could see the tips and tools that they could use in order to help relieve their stress. Based on our mid-fidelity findings, we opened all the materials up and placed them in containers to provide that more inviting setting. We wanted to foster a social atmosphere as well. So we made sure to place materials that were needed to use together away from each other so they could communicate with the other peoples at the table. Pictured here in our slides are images from the space. So we have the table on the left. This is where users would come up and design their cards. And the photo on the right is some of the materials we used. We also had the aspect of sharing their cards in the high fidelity prototype. When participants shared their cards with us, they were featured on our website, and this connected the physical event to the digital. And when we first started this, we wanted to create this evocative space. So in the physical space, as I've noted, we spread materials out to foster that social atmosphere. But we also wanted to help students learn about relaxation without directly telling them how to relax. So Design a Card was the conduit to knowing how to, or knowing that there are tools out there to help combat stress.
All right, so now we're going to go over if this project helped meet our key findings that we set. So one of the things that we did is when we developed the key findings was to make sure that they were measurable. And we measured them by using a system usability scale that asked users directly if that we met the key findings. So I'm going to go over the results that came back very positive overall. Our first key finding was to, in order to create a relaxing environment, expectations of the event must be clearly defined to the user. And you can see here that we asked users if they felt confident understanding the purpose, which they strongly agreed with. And we also asked users if they knew how to properly interact with the experience, which they also strongly agreed with. Our next key finding is that when relaxing, different people require different levels of engagement. We measured this by asking users if they thought they were in control of the participation with the experience, which users strongly agreed with. And we asked if there was a good amount of variety offered to them, which again, they strongly agreed with. Our next key finding is that new experiences are more relaxing when introduced via conduit. So we asked if the holiday theme made it easier for students to participate, and students strongly agreed with this notion. We also asked if they would enjoy sharing their holiday card, and students again agreed. Our last key finding that we dealt with is that social relaxation can be administered in small groups or clustered. So we asked if students would feel comfortable bringing friends to this event, or if they would tell their friends about this event, or come in a group. Students would agree that coming with friends was, and what we saw in our observation at the event is that students typically did come in groups of 2 to 3 people. So while we initially thought this might be an issue with the project, it actually was the opposite. Students came in small groups and clusters. So our final, and that system usability scale was based on 61 responses to our overall 106 total participants. Our online activity included 130 page views, and on social media, 47 likes and 6 comments. And one of the things that we found is that if we could build rapport with students, we created a better environment for sharing stories and talking about stress and relaxation, or even favorite holiday memories. The slight mystery box, when students clustered around the table, we were able to attract that 90% as they saw that there was this interest going on around this focal point. So some of those students would see the cluster, and then they would then engage with us and then themselves design a holiday card.
So if we were to take this project and do it in the future, we have created a few recommendations for ourselves. First of all, we would want to conduct research ahead of time for the locations that we chose to do our prototyping. The library presented a challenge because we only had one table we were allowed to use, and the other materials, including chairs and tables, depended on whether other students were using them for library activities. Marketing, specifically the Facebook page, could have been started a little bit earlier, just to put BSU Relaxes out there to gain more audience, and to put more information about the tips and tools we had for relaxation and stress management. We noticed that engagement was high because of the inviting atmosphere. People were happy and eager to participate when we asked them to, but we could have been more active in asking the people who were watching or the people who we didn't engage with. So, thank you for relaxing, and that's all we have for you.